attraction. So at a certain point, you know, even though conventional advice says, like, friendship is the primary thing, like this or that or another, if I don't feel some kind of sexual charge in the first, let's say, few times, just a couple of times that I've been on a date with this person or known this person, I'm probably not gonna consider them as long-term potential.
Yeah, typically that...
I know about myself.
Yeah, typically that is true. First of all, chemistry can't be manifested. It can grow, and what happens is the kind of chemistry that normally grows is the chemistry of love and respect. And if it gets big enough, it actually becomes a turn on for that person or those people. So I've seen that, but it's typically not you look at somebody, your heart's pounding, and you get all Twitter-pated, as I call it from Bambi. You get all like heart's racing and sweating and stuff like that. It's typically not that, but that leaves within 3 months to 2 years anyway. So the baseline is finding somebody that you're attracted to, and it's like women are to find somebody that they are 60% attracted to, because when they get any more attracted to a man or their partner, then what happens is they start making bad decisions. They don't fully be themselves. They're just like, they don't say everything they want to say. They don't do it, because when there's too much chemistry for women, we hold ourselves back. We hold ourselves in. We don't share as real and authentically as we want. When we're with somebody that is about 60% attraction, we can like hang out in sweatpants and t-shirt on the couch, and we don't care. Like when they come in, they're like, we're not primping our hair. We're not like making sure our makeup's just so. We're like, this is me. And you know what? Tonight when we go out, I'm gonna have the 5-inch heels and the net stockings and all that stuff to go out to dinner. But right now, I'm relaxing in my home or in our home, and I don't need to be all dressed up for it. And it's like, so whereas, it's like most women are like, oh, I just want the 100% thing. But it's like most of the time when we get that much chemistry, the personalities don't align. Like I've seen, and I've also experienced where there's so much chemistry, all you have is like the sexual animal magnetism, but you don't have nothing to talk about. Then you have the friends that you talk and talk and talk. You're like, oh my God, why can't I be attracted to you? And then there's the middle ground of like finding somebody that you're just attracted to enough, and you have so much stuff stimulating your mind and your conversation with each other. And then you have your needs met of like, maybe you need supported in your work or your emotional needs or whatever. It's like, and you figure out what those things are, and he's supplying those. And it's like, the best friend, the bond that happens in that actually the friendship holds relationships together, and what you have in common and the things that you do together and all of that stuff. It's not the love. You can love them all you want. I've loved somebody so much, but there's just no way that love would have kept us together. But because the friendship and everything, and I've split up with all of my boyfriends as friends, because I realize I'm very careful on who I choose. I'd rather be single than to be with the wrong person. And it's like, we're always so much in a rush to get to be in relationship that we make a lot of mistakes along the way. And then we have to take responsibility for like, I kind of knew he wasn't the right one, or I knew she wasn't the right one. And it's like, but I wanted to be in a relationship. I watched one of my friends, he got in a relationship. He knew he wasn't attracted to her, but he hadn't been in a relationship for 6 years or 5 years. And he was like, I just want a relationship. And then he never thought about, he doesn't know how to get out of a relationship. So then he was like stuck in there then he was stuck in that relationship for 5 years because he didn't know how to get out, until it got so bad that he finally was like, he had to get out. It was just like, it's like we have to stop just questioning ourselves to the point where, we stay in something that's unhealthy. I'm not saying get out as soon as one thing goes bad. Like I know people who do that. There's a happy medium to go, okay, this has been going on for this amount of time. This person is this kind of person. Can I live with that for the rest of my life and really take it in? Like I love telling couples, like, take a week-long vacation with your female friends for the woman and male friends for the man, away from each other every year. In that time, you get some alone time, you get perspective, you come up back, you get a honeymoon, you get to talk about, wow, I was really looking at our relationship and feeling into it and going, this is what I'm needing now. I didn't even realize it until I had space, or I need this to shift, or I was wondering if we could do this together more, or this is what I'm really loving about our relationship right now. Can we feed this part of it more? Can we, and then all of a sudden it's like there's more flames and there's more fire in a beautiful way, because then we're able to share our blind spots when we're together all the time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what do you think is, because, when you say things like being like, people have a hard time being authentic, like that, for me, that's sort of foreign, because I'm like you, I really don't have a hard time being authentic at all when I'm meeting someone or dating somebody. And then I just wonder, for me, it's more about like, oh, should I tell them all of that on day one or date two or whatever? That's more my edge. What are the things, or are there things that you feel like maybe you should hold off until, they've made you made a little bit of a connection, and maybe you don't need to tell them about all that yet? I'm talking about things like your divorce, or, the baggage you have, or the ex, or, these sorts of things.
Well, first of all, I think it depends on how you guys are connecting. Mm-hmm. Is the conversation staying surface? Is the conversation starting to go deep? If you ask a personal question, do they respond right away and really comfortably? Do they show that they're uncomfortable? It's not a, cut and dry. I know some people who say, get everything out on the table on the first date and you'll know in 15 minutes if he's your or she's your one. Mm-hmm. That's only one part of it, them answering those questions. When do you tell them that you're divorced? I would definitely say in the first 2 dates, because some people don't want to date a divorced person. Mm-hmm. When do you tell them you have children? On the first date, if not before. In your bio, it should be there, or before you meet up, they should know you have children. That's vital. That's not going to change. You're not going to send them away to boarding school unless they're already there. These things need to be said first and foremost.
One thing I've noticed online that's very controversial is that, and I say controversial, and that there's really a divide on how people feel about this, is some people feel like you should not date somebody until they're totally divorced. But if you're like me, my divorce took 4 years to be final. So, and it was nothing, it was beyond my control, right? So sometimes you have very litigious people that you're dealing with. And, of course, there was legal separation, immediately. But I didn't personally have this experience where anybody was hesitant to date me, even though I wasn't fully divorced. But I've seen it online where a lot of people are like, no, don't date her, don't date him if they're not fully divorced. They're still married, that sort of thing. How do you feel about that?
Well, it has nothing to do with how I feel about it. It has to do with what he or she feels about it. Like, first of all, if you have a belief,
what's your process?
If you have a belief, or the person you're dating has a belief about that, they need to know ASAP so they can either work through it, or you can find out if they're bothered by it. Because if they're bothered by it, it's a no-go. It's not a cut dry like, oh, it's because everybody's going to have a different response. If somebody came to me personally and said, we separated 2 years ago and we're in the process of getting a divorce, and we've not lived together for 2 years, and we only see each other when we are passing the kids to each other, and that's the only time, and we only talk when we're talking about the kids, and there's no chance of us ever getting back together, You know, if I go out a few more dates with them, if I really like them and go on a few more dates and I really see that he's a truthful person, I really feel into like he's authentic, then it's like, okay, well, let's see where this goes. But if I start seeing yellow flags and red flags that he's hiding things or he's lied about things, I don't make excuses for them. I just say, if the person's willing to lie about this or hide things there, he might not be telling the truth about the ex. And that's something that we need to go into our gut and go, is this okay with ourselves? Is this better for my higher self? And I'm always, when I'm dating, I'm always looking at the big picture. I'm looking at not just right now, but will I be able to handle this kind of personality and behavior 10 years from now? I don't even know who I'm going to be in 10 years from now, but being the person I am right now, is this the kind of person that I want to be with in 10 years from now? Like, I dated somebody that was very particular, very persnickety, very, you know, had to have things that way, their way. And as we got to know each other, I realized, like, I would have never chosen that kind of person for my life. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't say that those were the things that, you know, made us call it off, because he's still one of my closest friends and he's still all of those things. But I learned that I could accept those things, and I didn't realize, you know, fully how much they affected me, though, until I took time and space away from him. And then I was like, ooh, I don't know. And been around people who were always saying yes to me, to doing this and doing, because he was always saying no, like, no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't. No, and he always had, you know, finding out realistically, like, can I handle this realistically? In love only goes so far. Then it's like, can we handle all of the personality quirks and things? You know, can you accept them fully and live with them abundantly? Like, almost celebrate even the things that you're not, you know, you have to be at peace, going that this person's never going to change this. Am I okay with that? Like, can I deal with that? Can I deal with, like, what I had to ask myself with him was, can I deal with the fact that he's always going to question anything new that I try to bring into the relationship? You know,
isn't that kind of a man thing to do? I mean, not anything, but just like in general, to Mama Gina talks about this. She's like, if you have a big desire, if the feminine has a big desire and it's worthy, usually the man will say no and he'll protest. You know, she talks about that in her book too. And then you know you're onto something, and eventually he'll kind of like come around to it. But are you saying?
I'm not saying all men are anything. A lot of people, you know, it's like, if it's not really, you know, it's like, because even with all the books I've read scientifically with male brains and female brains, it's not always so cut and dry. It's just I went on, so after that guy and we broke up, I dated somebody who he loved all my ideas. I'd say, do you want to go to the beach? Yes. Do you want to go get lunch there? Oh, that would be awesome. You want to go? And I was like, whoa, blew my mind. So he wasn't that way at all. Yeah, sure, that was at the beginning. Who knows?
I was going to say, did he stay that way 6 months after?
Right. But it was just like, but I know that, you know, I've dated men that are more curious and just stays with that curiosity of wanting to go out and do new things all the time. And he definitely didn't fit the bill of like never wanting to do new things. He was always wanting to new and different things and stuff like this. I would bring home something tantric, and he's like, okay, let's try that. You know, I'd say, hey, I found out about this movie. Oh, that's great. I thought about this theater thing. He's like, awesome. And then he would have a list of things that he would show me every week and go, do you want to do any of these? And so not every man or every woman fits into the boxes that people like to fit people into just because of their sex.
Yeah, I think there are tendencies, though, and being somebody who's bisexual and dated both men and women, I would say that it's more common with men to have them kind of, what's the right words? Kind of see women as almost like a subtle sense of ownership. And it might be just the way the roots of marriage, like why legal marriage is created. And with that sense of ownership is like picking you, like, again, a dating app, picking you out on this dating app and being like, oh, you're perfect for me, when they realize that you are not what they perceived fully. And then they want to change those things about you, right? Or they pretend to be what you want. And then you go 3 months in, 4 months in, and now they're trying to change you. Or now suddenly 4 months later, they have a problem with this piece of you that's always been there, right? But it's like, what were you thinking? Like, I've showed this to you from day one, but I feel like our society has set up this patriarchal structure that, whether it's conscious or unconscious, men feel entitled, to women on a certain level as like ownership. And of course women can feel like they own their partner too, with marriage, and they can dictate and everything like that. Like, I know women who even dress and pick out all their clothes for their partner and tell him he has to wear that and not that, and all this kind of stuff. And it's even considered like cute and charming, But so there's this level of like codependency and enmeshment, but then I feel like there's this other patriarchal thing that I've never experienced with the women that I've dated. They're kind of just like, cool, like, I want to get to know you kind of thing, but I haven't necessarily been like, you're perfect for me, and then and then like kind of like, I'm supposed to do this because I'm their partner, or I'm their person, or whatever else.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I've had a completely different dating life than most women. I tend to date really good men, or I'm in relationship, not dating. Dating is completely different, but the men that I choose to be in relationship are really good men. And so I've never 3 months into a relationship had this experience where I'm like, oh wait, you're not accepting me for this, you're not accepting. It's like, I've not had that. I've had one relationship that 9 months in, we had to have a conversation over him wanting a little bit of what you're talking about, a little bit of like, all of his insecurities and jealousies were coming up and stuff like that. He was trying to contain me, and I was like, not going to happen. We have to have a conversation about this. Then we had to figure out how to work out the relationship. Was it going to end, or were we going to tweak it a little bit where it worked for both of us? And we decided to do the tweaks to work it out. And part of me looks at the tweaks that we did. I'm like, wow, being the person I am now, I wouldn't have done it. But back then, it felt okay to do. But it's just like the moment, I think the only thing I can say is like, I'm just, what is it? A kid goes through their curious stages of always asking questions at 2 or 3 years old. I don't think I ever got out of that phase. So I'm always asking questions. So it's like, so they get to know me and I get to know them. And we're always doing that, especially at the very beginning, and as we get deeper into the relationship. But it's like not a non-stop thing. It's just like every once in a while a question shows up. And then we work it out in that moment. So there's just so much known in those first 6 weeks that's like, we kind of know. What's really interesting, in all of my dating years, I've only had one man not get through those 6 weeks. Like, he quit, because most men love vulnerability. Most men love a woman just like that will share all of themselves and all the stuff. And when we get into fear and we get into all this stuff, it's like, it kind of confuses them, but it also kind of leaves them with, I'm curious because, she's beautiful, or she's sexy, or she's hot, so I want to stay with it. But there's some part of, because like they say, like, men decide in the first 30 seconds or so if she's even an option. So she might be optional for a booty call, she might be an optional for dating, she might be an option for life. But he kind of subconsciously decides that in the first 30 seconds. And it's like, can that change? Probably, but that's going to be time spent together to figure out if it can. But a lot of times they've said from the scientific data that most men don't change their minds. They can, but most time they don't. So for me, it's just like, that's why I think like so many people come to me and they're like, they have a sex issue. But what they have is really, what we work on is a communication thing. And then when we get through the communication, there's no sex problem.
Yeah, because sex is communication, right? It's like, that's all, they always go together,
you know,
sex and communication.
You know, it's like once you start freeing yourself from all your secrets and all your hiding and all this thing and not saying what you really want to be saying, all of a sudden your whole entire being goes, you can relax and you can be elated and excited, and then you start talking about more desires and your fantasies, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, let's go down that path, because now you have space for it because you told them the thing that you've been hiding for so long, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm not hiding that, and then you feel free.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are afraid to be alone, though. Like you're saying, you'd rather be alone than be with the wrong person. I think a lot of people are afraid to be alone or very uncomfortable with it, because then you have to be with yourself too, right? And I also think that there's a lot of scarcity mindset too. And you know, when there's scarcity mindset, it's like, oh, I shouldn't let it all hang out. I shouldn't show everything that I am because I might lose this person, as if we believe there's not somebody, you know, more aligned coming down the pike. And there's 7 billion, almost 8 now billion people on the planet. There's a lot of options out there, you know. There's a lot of options out there just logistically, statistically, right? You only need one person to be in a relationship. Some people need more than that, but you know, you really only need one person to not be alone. And yet, like, people go on dating apps and they think that there's so many options, and they don't realize, you know, that a good portion of those folks are psychopaths, narcissists, avoidant attachment disorder, undateable, you know, dishonest, like whatever else. That, you know, that's another thing I think from that book, Love Factually, is that, you know, I think she said there's like a certain percentage that just is not really interested in being in a relationship or being really authentic, and they're the ones that are always on the dating app, right? Like they're the new other people, you know, the new women come and they just got out of a relationship or whatever, and it can kind of like jade you. But a lot of those folks on the dating app just aren't available. And I feel like I can't do dating apps anymore, because it's just like I feel like I'm doing free training, free communication skills training, free like therapy, that sort of thing. And I'm like, or it's just taking up so much time and energy to, like you say, ask the questions and like sort through all of this stuff. And so the only